Imagine signing up for a college degree to better your life, only to find out the school was a complete scam. For hundreds of thousands of students at predatory for-profit colleges, that nightmare became a reality, leaving them buried under staggering amounts of federal student debt. But there is a safety valve. Under a federal law known as borrower defense to repayment, if a school defrauds you, you have the legal right to have those specific federal student loans completely canceled. There was just one problem. For years, the Department of Education simply ignored these applications. Defrauded borrowers were left in financial limbo while their unresolved claims gathered dust. In 2019, those borrowers fought back. They filed a class action lawsuit called Sweet v. McMahon, taking the federal government to court for refusing to process their claims. After years of litigation, the two sides finally reached a massive settlement in 2022. The government agreed to process the claims, securing at least $23 billion in student loan relief for over 500,000 borrowers. By signing the settlement, the government entered into a legally binding contract, a court-ordered mandate to clean up its own administrative failure. The sheer volume of claims created immediate logistical hurdles. Roughly 170,000 people filed their applications during a specific window between June and November 2022, a group known as the post class. To handle them, the settlement laid out a strict timetable, with court-mandated deadlines to review applications by January 28th and April 15th, 2026. By agreeing to these exact dates, the Department of Education created a rigid countdown for itself. They were now legally on the clock. The settlement included a built-in penalty. If the Department of Education failed to reach a decision on a post-class application by those deadlines, the borrower would automatically receive full loan cancellation. When January and April 2026 finally arrived, the system bottlenecked. The department missed the deadlines for tens of thousands of post-class applications. Instead of honoring the fail-safe and clearing the debt, the government went to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals and asked for an extension. Their argument centered on logistics. The department claimed they lacked the administrative resources to process the paperwork and argued that automatically wiping out the debt would place an unfair financial strain on taxpayers. The government was essentially asking the court for permission to break a signed agreement, using its own internal inefficiency as a legal shield to avoid granting the promised relief to the borrowers. On July 17, 2026, a three-judge panel of the Ninth Circuit delivered their response. They unanimously and forcefully rejected the government's request for a delay. The court pointed out a simple fact. The Department of Education knew exactly how large the post-class applicant pool was back when they originally signed the settlement. During the hearings, the judges made their position remarkably clear, shutting down the excuses by stating that the time for negotiating was over. With the delay denied, the settlement's fail-safe officially triggered. The government is now legally forced to automatically wipe out the debt for those 170,000 unprocessed post-class applications. Federal agencies are bound by the same contract laws and court orders as any private citizen. They cannot unilaterally rewrite the rules when a deadline becomes inconvenient. This infographic breaks down what full settlement relief actually entails for those applicants. The first pillar is the complete and total cancellation of the relevant federal student loan balances, but it goes further. Borrowers also receive a cash refund for past payments made to the Department of Education and the total deletion of that specific loan history from their credit reports. Eligible borrowers need to actively monitor their emails and federal student aid accounts to find their official notices of eligibility, which the government was required to send out by March and June of 2026. For these borrowers, erasing those balances restores credit scores and ends years of financial stagnation, finally untangling them from bureaucratic purgatory. Winning in appellate court is a massive victory, but it is rarely the final step. Advocates from the Project on Predatory Student Lending are still actively filing breach notices to force the government to implement these zero balances on borrower accounts. Ultimately, this case enforces institutional accountability. It proves that the government cannot arbitrarily evade its own deadlines or ignore its court-ordered commitments. The Ninth Circuit's ruling sets a strict legal precedent for the future. Federal agencies cannot use administrative burden as a shield to walk away from class action settlements. The victory in Sweet v. McMahon affirms a core legal principle. When the government signs a contract with its citizens, it must pay up when the clock runs out.